Hi there, Year 12. What we're going to be doing now is we are going to be looking through my annotations of J.K. Rowling's address to Harvard, The Fringe Benefits of Failure and the Importance of Imagination. I'm just going to roll through my annotations, my thoughts. These videos are going to come in 15-minute bursts because I think that's about as long as I'm allowed to be on here for without needing to manually download the video. So, without further ado, here we go. So she starts off with her greeting, with her salutation. President Faust, members of the Harvard Corporation and the Board of Overseers, members of the faculty, proud parents, and above all, graduates. Now, this opening salutation establishes the purpose and the context of her speech. Without knowing anything else, without having a look at the date or the title, we know that J.K. Rowling is speaking at a Harvard graduation. Now, as we were speaking about the other day, Harvard is one of the most prestigious universities in the United States. In 2008, Rowling had just, in the previous year, 2007, released her final Harry Potter book. She was at the absolute pinnacle of her fame, of her influence. So to have her speaking at one of the most prestigious university graduations in the United States was no small feat. Okay, so she straight away establishes a connection with her audience. Now, if you're going to be writing a persuasive speech, you need to think not only about the purpose and context of your speech, but who the audience is. J.K. Rowling, if you are familiar with her literary works, has a really good sense of humour. Humour is one of her strongest points. And she uses a lot of this here to engage with her audience because, again, these are university graduates. If you're in year 12 at the moment, university graduation must seem a long, long way off, and the graduates themselves infinitely older. But really, they're not. They're a bunch of kids in their early 20s. And one of the ways that Rowling seeks to communicate with them and connect with them is through humour. But also, first, she humbles herself. She says, the first thing I would like to say is thank you. Not only has Harvard given me an extraordinary honour, but with the weeks of fear and nausea I've endured at the thought of giving this commencement address, it has made me lose weight. So, a couple of things going on here. First of all, she humbles herself before her audience. This was an author, a celebrity at the very height of her fame, and she is saying to her audience, thank you. I was nervous about speaking in front of you. So, this immediately establishes a connection with her audience. She brings herself to their level, beneath it even, by thanking them. Then she uses first-person pronouns of I, and she makes the joke to break the ice. So she flatters her audience and then makes a joke with them, ultimately establishing a very, very quick connection, a win-win situation. Now all I have to do is take deep breaths, squint at the red banners, and convince myself that I'm at the world's largest Gryffindor reunion. All right, so as I've already said, J.K. Rowling, if you didn't know, is the author of the Harry Potter book series, wildly, wildly successful in the late 90s and mid to late 2000s. So, she's here. She's got an accumulation. She is accumulating. All I have to do is take deep breaths, squint, and pretend I'm at a Gryffindor reunion, which is an intertextual allusion to Harry Potter. It is her most famous work, and it is through this she establishes her ethos. This is what establishes her credibility. She alludes to the award-winning novel series of which she was the creator. And after humbling herself to the audience, she low-key, she flexes a little bit on them by reminding them of her greatest success. So even somebody with her great success finds the need to humble themselves and gets nervous and things. And this is a theme we are going to see recreated throughout the speech. Anyway, then she opens with an anecdote. Delivering a commencement address is a great responsibility. Also, I thought, until I cast my mind back to my own graduation. The commencement speaker that day was the distinguished British philosopher Baroness Mary Warnock. Reflecting on her speech has helped me enormously in writing this one because it turns out I can't remember a single word she said. So again, the humour, the juxtaposition there of the speech that she received to the one that she's giving. And it's a liberating discovery that enables me to proceed without any fear that I might inadvertently influence you to abandon promising careers in business, the law, or politics for the giddy delights of becoming a gay wizard. This was around the time where J.K. Rowling confirmed a fan theory that Dumbledore was in fact gay. So again, she's tapping into something that she would have seen significantly memed at the time on social media, which her audience, new university graduates, would have been familiar. So again, more humour, more allusion to the Harry Potter series. Now, this speech, as you know, if you've already listened to it or read it, is a real roller coaster ride. And as with most roller coaster rides, the ones that people don't die on at least, they are very, very carefully and deliberately constructed to take people on a journey of highs and lows. So she begins with a high, and that's something I'd like you to think about next time you have to write a speech or a persuasive speech. Like, how are you going to take your audience on a roller coaster ride of emotions, of ideas, of a journey, right? Anyway, so then she begins with the rhetorical question in second person. You see, if all you remember in years to come is the gay wizard joke, I've come out ahead of Baroness Mary Warnock. Achievable goals, the first step to self-improvement. That achievable goals business, those are truncated sentences. They're shortened sentences, they're short and they're snappy and they're clever. If J.K. Rowling is nothing else, know that she's a very, very clever woman, and she really does flex that literary brain of hers throughout this speech. So it's her first goal. It's also how she moves into her very first goal. So again, we have another anecdote. Lots of I and lots of my. Now you'd be thinking, and you wouldn't be wrong in thinking, well, if she's speaking to all these people, why is she talking about herself so much? The reason being is that she is establishing her ethos, her credibility. So she wants her audience to know, I have spent rather a lot of time doing this because I really want you to know what I know and what lessons I, super successful author J.K. Rowling, can impart to you. And she doesn't do this with arrogance. She does it from a place of knowledge. She's twice the age of these people. And this is kind of what she's showing here. I've racked my mind and heart for what I thought to say to you today. I've asked myself what I wish I had known at my own graduation and what important lessons I have learned in the 21 years that have expired between that day and this. And this is what makes her relatable to her audience. I have been in your shoes. It was your entire lifetime ago, but I was there and I remember, and here is what I wish I'd known. I have come up with two answers, and this is where she establishes her purpose, her persuasive speech, the two things that she wants to persuade you on. One is on this wonderful day when we are gathered here to celebrate your academic success, I've decided to talk to you about the benefits of failure. That's point one. And again, it's catchy. It's a paradox, the benefits of failure. We do not ordinarily, link these two things together, yet she does, to reveal a universal truth. It's catchy and it's true. There are benefits of failure. That's point one. Then point two, and as you stand on the threshold of what is sometimes called real life, I want to extol the crucial importance of imagination. Here she uses alliteration and metaphor. So those are her two main points. She wants to tell you that failing is actually good if you learn from it, and that the imagination is important. She does talk about how this is important from a life skills perspective, but I digress. These may seem chaotic or paradoxical choices, but please bear with me. She links in back to the anecdote again. Looking back at the 21-year-old that I was at graduation is a slightly uncomfortable experience for the 42-year-old that she has become. Half my lifetime ago, I was striking an uneasy balance between the ambition that I had for myself and what those closest to me expected of me. We've got a couple of things going on here, but there's most important of which in this anecdote is the juxtaposition between what she wanted and what her parents wanted. Again, this establishes the relatability with her audience because she knows that young people, particularly those on the precipice of adulthood and full independence, still clash with their parents. They butt heads. What they want for themselves is, generally speaking, different to that of what their parents want for them. So again, she seeks to create that connection. I was where you potentially have been or are now. Then she continues with the personal pronouns. The only thing I wanted to do was to write novels. However, my parents, both of whom came from impoverished backgrounds and neither of whom had been to college, took the view that my overactive imagination was an amusing personal quirk that would not pay mortgage or secure pension. Again, this is the relatability. It's going to resonate with her audience. How sometimes our parents look upon us, and let me tell you, it doesn't change in adulthood. They look upon you as a little kid, and your strengths can sometimes be amusing to them because they do not potentially understand, your life, your current situation. So again, this is probably going to resonate with some of the professors in there too. All right. I know that the irony strikes with the force of a cartoon anvil now, and that's a humorous metaphor. We've all seen those Bugs Bunny cartoons. And again, she's rounding off what is a very, very serious and deep point with a nice little bit of Rowling humour. Rightio. So now she continues her anecdote, and she talks about that she went up to study modern languages. Hardly had my parents' car rounded the corner at the end of the road than I ditched German and scuttled off down the classics corridor. So we've got the colloquial and the figurative language and the repeated motif of the classics corridor. She's always talking about this is a recurring motif throughout her speech, the classics corridor, scuttling off down the classics corridor, because it is a depiction of the defiance of her parents, of what led her ultimately to her greatest success. And it also gives authority and credibility because, again, she did what she thought she had to do, and it ended up benefiting her enormously. Under capitalism, there's one thing we love, and it is a success story. This is what we get from this speech. All right, I cannot remember telling my parents that I was studying classics, blah, blah, Greek mythology, whatever. Okay. And then she, I think, says this partially for the benefit of the parents and the audience. I'd like to make it clear, in parenthesis, that I do not blame my parents for their point of view. There is an expiry date on blaming your parents for steering you in the wrong direction. The moment you are old enough to take the wheel, responsibility lies with you. Again, Rowling knows there's parents in the audience, so she's speaking to them as well. And she uses the metaphor of the path of life, which again resonates with young people. It connects to imagery. You can go this way or you can go that way, but ultimately you are the one behind the steering wheel. Another thing people undoubtedly will have experienced by the time they graduate university: driving, getting your P's. If you didn't get it in year 12 or 11, potentially you would have got it at uni. All right, I'm going to pause there and move on to part 2.